Welcome to Make a Path Presents. I'm your host, Ronnie Hayes. The Walking Dead Season 6 is starting soon, and since I strongly believe the show's going to be using more material from the comic, I feel that it'll be safe to do Season 6 and Season 7 death predictions. Let's jump right into this with the legend himself, Rick motherfucking Grimes. By now, we have all heard the false rumors that Andrew Lincoln wants to leave the show, but I cannot see Rick Grimes dying in Season 6 or Season 7, or 8 or 9 or 10 or 11. If Rick did die in the middle of Season 6, my interest for the show would most likely plummet. So much so that I'd probably switch to binge watching it on Netflix instead of staying current. The reason for this is different than the Daryl fans, though. The ones that say if he dies, I quit. We woke up in this world with Rick Grimes, and I feel that he propels the story so much, his death would negatively affect not only the show's story, but the brand itself. So there is zero chance of Rick Grimes dying anytime soon. Next, Carole Grimes. Although at this time Carl doesn't feel as important to the story as his comic counterpart did, his age and other factors contribute to this, I do believe he is safe from the Grim Reaper. I'd give him only about a 5% chance of dying anytime soon. Next, Aaron. He is a new character that most likely is here for a while, and rightfully so. I'm hoping that he's fleshed out well on the show. But long story short, Aaron is safe. Next, Abraham Ford. Oh, damn. I am so excited for Abraham. Hell no is he dying this soon. Kirkman is fixing this comic book mistake, and I applaud him for it. However, when Season 8 rolls around, we might have to reevaluate what we're thinking. Carole Peltier. I don't know if I pronounced her last name right anyway. She's a tough cookie. See what I did there? On one hand, I can see her lasting a few more seasons and exploring a new dimension to her character. On the other hand, I'd say she has about a 40% chance of dying, because I see this possible tragic situation leading to her demise, one that will send Daryl off into a new direction. Not a mopey one either, but a hot-headed, pissed off, quick to shoot, always ready for war, non-apologetic asshole to their enemies type of direction. And speaking of Daryl Dixon, Daryl is a character that most fans consider safe, calling him AMC's cash cow. Although I think that's a bit exaggerated, there still could be some truth there. Most likely is. With that said, I feel that Daryl has a 20% chance of dying in Season 6, because it is inevitable that there will have to be an altercation between him and the new crossbow-wielding character from the comics that is entering the show this season. However, I only said 20% because I do not believe that altercation needs to be deadly. Season 7, however, might actually be the death of Daryl. With some very interesting characters and storylines coming up, fans will find it hard to stop watching, even if their favorite character dies. But Daryl's death feels like it would impact the story more in the first few skirmishes with the Saviors, but even more so during All Out War. So the closer we get to Negan, the Saviors, and All Out War, the more likely to me it becomes that Daryl will die. Next, who's Deanna? This political leader of the safe zone lost her son, then the love of her life, her husband, and then she immediately ordered a public execution. It's likely that she becomes unhinged, maybe even to the point where she just hands leadership over to Rick after they handle the wolves in the show. I do believe that her death will be different from the comic counterpart and the overall story getting to her death, but I believe 100% her fate is sealed. Deanna will not survive Season 6. Next, Eugene Porter is a character that simply has more to offer to the story alive than he does dead. I can't see how his death now or in Season 7 would help move the story forward in any way, shape, or form. Eugene is safe. Next, Father Gabriel, aka public enemy number one among a lot of fans. Although he was a complete piece of shit in season 5, I feel like there was some healing at the end, and because I like the actor so much, I am hoping Father Gabriel is fleshed out better on the show than he is in the comics. I am more accepting for his character to get the Carole treatment, not meaning his character needs to be like Carole in any way, shape, or form, just meaning that I am willing to accept that he is going to be dramatically different than his counterpart, because I love the actor so much, and I would love to see him get more material than the comic counterpart did in the story. But in the meantime, like it or not, I believe the traitor is safe. Next, Glenn. This guy just does not stop picking up baseball bats. Many fans believe he has a date with destiny, named Lucille. I don't. Maggie and Glenn are two halves to one whole. If one dies, the other one's life will completely change, and so will their story. So by default, they each get 30% chance of dying in season 6 and 50% chance of dying in season 7. The effect of Glenn's death could mirror the comics, sending Maggie to the hilltop and eventually becoming the leader. On the other hand, Maggie's death could bring Glenn down a crippling path of depression, leading to a broken, reckless version of the young lover. Or maybe they go down together. 20% chance on that. Next, Jessie Anderson. Now, this is a character that might spark a rant from yours truly. Yes, me. I, more often than not, stay open-minded about changes and remixes from the comic book. However, Jessie and Ron is an exception. I will not spoil the details here, but I am convinced her story must play out the same way as it did in the comic, except for you have to switch out Ron and Sam, the youngest son. I'm giving her a 90% chance of not surviving season 6. Next, Michonne. I love Michonne. She's safe. Do you hear me, Gimple? She's safe. Seriously, her death now would be sad and tragic. I just don't see it moving the story along in any interesting direction. So, her story continues. Next, Morgan Jones. I am a big Lenny James fan, so I am through the frickin' roof with excitement about Morgan's return. And I believe he is in pretty safe shape in season 6. In the comic, yes, comic spoilers coming, but it doesn't matter because this isn't going to happen in the show. I'm convinced of this, okay? So, in the comic, Morgan dies after getting to Alexandria during a breach at a part of the wall, in a section of the wall. Walkers get in and he dies. But we have already seen this death in the show. You see, in the comic, Morgan is bitten. Michonne chops off his arm, he loses blood, and he dies, and Michonne puts him down. The environment was totally different, but that is almost identical to Tyrese's death in season 5. Tyrese gets bit, Michonne and Rick, and they chop off his arm, they take him back, well, they try to, and he loses blood, he dies however he dies from the bites, whatever it is, and Michonne finishes him off. Even in between that, he's hallucinating and stuff. Now, in the comic, they didn't have Morgan hallucinating to that effect, but he did call Carole Dwayne at one point in time. He was in bed with the sweats and everything like that, and it was just too similar. There was a lot different, mainly the atmosphere and where it happened, but besides the atmosphere, it was almost identical. So no, I do not believe they're going to copy that same death. Plus, Morgan's comic book death just simply does not fit in the TV story. But I strongly believe that he is no longer safe when it gets to season 7. With Rick absolutely willing to kill any person who is trouble. Just as Morgan re-enters his life with a new all life is precious philosophy, this could be the catalyst to shove the story into a new and interesting direction, yet also a heart-shattering, tragic direction. When Negan chooses to kill one of Rick's men as punishment, and Morgan accepts his fate in order to save the precious lives of those he has grown to like. Depending on pacing, I believe that Morgan has an 80% chance of dying in season 7 or 8 at the hands of Negan. Next, Rosita. Seems like a safe character, but she could be a wild card. So, I'm giving her 40% chance of death in Season 6. Next, Sasha the Sniper. Her attitude in Season 5 lost her some fans and gained her some haters. But as she absorbs more and more of Comic Andrea's Sniper storyline, I strongly believe that Season 6 will be Sasha's time to win over the fans she lost and then some. Her role in the coming story is crucial, and her death wouldn't move the story forward at all. Like it or not, Sasha is here to stay. Next, Spencer. He should be getting a lot more screen time coming up, and with the show using more material from the comic, I feel that his story from the comic fits just fine on TV. He lost his brother, then he lost his father. Then in Season 6, after he loses his mother, he becomes disloyal to Rick, and maybe he views Rick's leadership as incompetent, which will lead to a very deadly discussion in Season 7. Possibly 8 depending on pacing. Spencer might be safe in Season 6, but I give him a 95% chance of dying in Season 7. Next, Terre. Here is a character that isn't from the comic that surprised a lot of fans, lasting as long as she did. Her contribution to the progression of the story itself is still somewhat a mystery to me. I always felt her character was tremendously helpful with other characters' development and also with the story's transition from the prison back to being on the road again. But with the cast growing each season, it might be time to trim some of the fat. And if her character doesn't play a bigger part in the story, I just have to give her 60% chance of dying in Season 6 and an 80% chance of dying in Season 7 as the story heads into more aggressive waters. Next, Nicholas. Now this is a character that might actually surprise us. Part of me hopes that he redeems himself for his despicable actions in Season 5 and ends up saving Glenn's life. But if he is still gonna be a scared dick, I feel that his days are numbered. Redeemed Nick has a 10% chance of death. Dick Nick has a 90% chance of death. It would be pretty twisted though if Glenn went through all that trouble saving Nick and in the end, somewhere out on a run, Nicholas left him to die or something. That shit would be crazy. I would definitely want him dead by then. He'd become #1 public enemy. Move over, Father Gabriel. There are other characters that are being introduced this season. There was some that only had little bit parts in Season 5, like Olivia, Eric. We have Heath is new, Scott, Jesus, so on. These are characters we are most likely going to see in Season 6, and these are characters that are most likely 100% safe in this coming season. So we're going to have to come back and revisit their percentages when the story progresses into those more aggressive waters we were talking about. But until then, this is your supersized Season 6 and Season 7 death predictions. Subscribe now for more of your Walking Dead video hookup. Like, share, and spread the word about Make a Path Presents and help MAP grow. And a huge thank you to all you members of the MAP family. We now have 23,000 subscribers on the road to 100K. Thank you very much, and don't forget to leave your thoughts, opinions, and death predictions in that comment box. I'm done talking. It's your turn. Subscribe now.